Namaste, I'm JV Dr. Sapna Gehlot and my session is on evolution of comparative politics. Any major landmarks in the evolution of comparative politics. G.K. Roberts has been divided the evolution of comparative politics in three phases. The first is unsophisticated, then it's a sophisticated, and the third one is increasingly sophisticated. Generally, by development of comparative politics these days can be studied in three phases. पहला वो evolution of comparative politics up to Second World War or the first phase. Then the second is development of comparative politics after Second World War or the second phase. And the third one is the present status of comparative politics or the third phase. Now हम इसको in detail करते हैं. So the first is evolution of comparative politics up to Second World War or first phase. Aristotle made an attempt to study 158 Greek city-states political institution of those days and offered a systematic classification of this government. He classified the government on the basis of two principles, mainly the number of person wielding power and the nature of the government, and accordingly he referred to three normal governments, generally monarchy, aristocracy and polity, and three perverted governments like namely tyranny, oligarchy and democracy. So these terms continue to be used by many political scientists. Later Polybus transmitted Greek ideas to Roman thought and contributed studies that were in part comparative. They took up the Aristotelian categories but considered them formal and the legalistic terms. Then in the Renaissance, Machiavelli returned to the method used by Aristotle. His Prince is a good treatise for the students of comparative politics. During the 16th century, Jean Bodder drew on the work of Aristotle and extended that of Machiavelli. He studied the government of European states and making shrewd comparison of their features and strength. Then Montesquieu, he employed a method that was definitely comparative in establishing his theory of law and politics. He gave chief attention to the nature of liberty and its best safeguard the separation of power. Significance of his contribution lies in his attempt to relate politics of social factor groups, economic classes, education, tradition and ideology. Hegel has given stress on reason. According to him, the aim of human life is realization of ultimate reality. Karl Marx's theories provide a frame of references for the comparative investigations of political systems in the light of generalization concept, according to which the mode of production in many, you can say in a in given systems shapes the political and the social institutions, and many other thinkers made valuable contribution to the study of comparative and politics like the James Bryce, Hermann Feiner, Frederick Seeley, Edward Jens, etc. So according to J.W. Garner, that these writers employed what was called the comparative method that aimed through the study of existing polities or those which had existed in the past to assemble a definite body of material from which the investigator by selection, comparison and elimination may discover the ideal types and the progressive forces of political history. So the first is this. On first आपने देखा it is from right of evolution of comparative up to the Second World War, and the main contribution किसका रहा? जैसे सबसे पहले it is the Aristotle, then you can say Polybus, then Machiavelli, Montesquieu, Hegel, मार्क्स, देन काफ़ी रहे जैसे कि जेम्स ब्राइस, हर्मन फाइनर, फ्रेडरिक एटसेट्रा एंड एटसेट्रा. नाउ कम टू द सेकेंड फेज, यानी डेवलपमेंट ऑफ कंपैरेटिव पॉलिटिक्स आफ्टर सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर और द सेकेंड फेज. नाउ a new phase in the development of comparative government and politics started after the Second World War, when a number of writers like the Almond, Coleman, Weir, Apter, etc. adopted various approaches and tried to study the political reality through new techniques. One major factor which contributed to the development of these approaches was the widespread feeling of disappointment and the dissatisfaction with the traditional descriptive approaches on the subject. In the second phase of comparative politics, an attempt was made to deeply study political institutions. The comparisons made were more rigorous and approaches in the study of governmental institutions more realistic. With them began phase of sophisticated studies and they made functional comparison. They deal with the methodological problems and studied not only with the problems relating to collection of data but also made several cross-cultural studies and analyzed problem connected with these. During this period, Frederick H. Feiner wrote The Theory and Practice of Government and Constitutional Government and the Politics, and what the EMC wrote, Political Institution, a preface. So you can say that according to Roberts, this may be called the sophisticated phase in the growth of the subject of comparative politics, in as much as these writers were concerned with the various strategies of comparison, area studies, configurative approach, institutional and functional comparisons, a problem-based orientation, and with various methodological problems. Conceptualization, the establishment of agreed categories for comparison, validity as a problem, cross-culture difficulties, and the availability of data. So you have seen कि जो second phase था, it's totally different था, and it is more refined and is more sophisticated. And the third is the present status of comparative politics, or the third one. The third phase in the development of comparative politics began with the coming of G.A. Almond and G.S. Coleman, who edited Politics of Developing Areas. During the period, E.R.V. Madden wrote Politics of Developing Nations, and H. Eccleston and D. Apter edited Comparative Politics Notes and Readings. The writers belonging to the third phase have made use of interrelated sets of concepts because they have adapted the method of comparative analysis. David Easton has used the terms like the inputs, outputs, demands, supports, the environment, to feedback, etc. Almond has given a set of inputs and output functions, and Dash has employed such concepts as autonomy, memory, lead, lag, receptors, communication, selective screening of information, and so on. The study of comparative politics in its present forms cover contribution of those political scientists who have broadened the territorial scope of the subject by including in their field of study those areas in the world which have been ignored by the previous writer, especially the Afro-Asian and Latin American regions now known as the developing societies. So you can say कि जो third phase is totally change और हो गया, जहाँ पे second stage sophisticated हुआ, the third ने एक तरीके से especially हमें इसके लिए जितने भी developing societies पे उस पे focus शुरू किया. So the contribution of George McCann, Myron Wiener, Lucien Pai, Leonard Bender, etc. to play और उनका जो valuable था बहुत important रहा. So the influencer over the comparative political analysis, Almond is of the opinion that the four influences over comparative politics can be seen after Second World War, and these are like achievements of non-Western data or facts, birth of behavioral movement, cultural and individualistic method, and the fourth one is sociological influence over the comparative political analysis. Thank you.